Hi, and welcome to another episode of Can't Stop the Growth. I'm your host, Chad Peterman, and today we're going to take a look at some audio from one of our future leaders meetings where I talked about the law of process. This is taken out of a John Maxwell book, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. Really love this book, and especially love this particular law because it's all about putting in the work to become a leader. There is no natural born leaders, only people who work at it each day to become better and ultimately affect others. So without further ado, we'll take a look at that audio. Hope you enjoy. So as we look to grow as a leader, we've got to understand that there's a process involved. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen next week or next year. Leadership is a lifelong journey. You will never reach the finish line. No one is ever going to say you finally made it. It is constant change and adaptation and understanding of where you are in relation to the people that you lead. The law of the process, as you can imagine, most of you who have worked with me understand my disc profile bends heavy to the C. So when it comes to the law of process, maybe one of my favorites, simply because there's a formula, and if you follow it, you get results. And I really like that stuff. So while it may not be fun, I get it, but that's fine with me. But I think the more important part of it being a process is that it allows you to be patient. You know, in the fast-paced world, we were actually talking about this the other day. The one thing that I think we make extremely hard here is how fast we move. And so when you've got a company moving fast, the only natural tendency is to move fast as well. However, leadership is not going to move fast. It's methodical. It's day by day moving along. And we have to understand that those two things are going to move kind of opposite. We're going to continue to move fast as a result of being patient in our leadership. In the book, he reflects on a story about a lady who, and I won't get too far into it, but essentially retired. Was making, I think, $3,000 a year working for the IRS like in 1950, and she saved all her money and put it in the stock market and was very frugal. And by the end, when she passed away, she had given all of her money and just earning like $3,000 a year, but investing that money, was able to donate like $22 million or something like that to some university. The details, obviously, you can read. It's quite an amazing story. But, he compares, John Maxwell compares developing leadership to like investing in the stock market. As we know with our 401k or any retirement investment you have, if you look at it every day, you're going to be really disappointed. It doesn't grow over the course of time. What do they always say? There's ups and downs in the stock market, but if you stay in it over the course of time, you'll win. As many of you know, one of my best friends does finance for a living, and he's always asked me, "Hey, did you see the stock market?" I go, "Dude, didn't look at it. Never will. I trust you. You got this taken care of. I'll pick my head up when it's time to retire. We'll see what we got there." We have to understand that leadership is much in the same. It's that daily grind. The difference being that leadership takes effort every day. Whereas if you put money in the stock market, you're not really putting any effort. But the similarity is that it takes time to grow. It takes time to get there. And the progress that we make is daily. It's daily action. It's daily sharing what we know. It's methodical. I've talked before about, the monotony of success. A lot of people think of success as, well, when I get here, I'll be successful. Or when I accomplish this, or when I take this role, I'll be successful then. When really success comes in the daily grind. It's not about reaching somewhere. It's about the work that we put in each day to get there. The one thing that when I was reading through this chapter where I made a connection was that there's no skill required to be a great leader. And I read that in here and kind of thought about it and like, okay, well, you think about great leaders and different things like that, It's really hard to identify. You can look at a little kid and say, oh, that kid's athletic. Maybe he'll be good at sports or, this, that, and the other. Look at a little kid and say, hell of a leader right there, I'll tell you. No, you're not going to do that. And that's because there's no skill, there's no natural born leaders. Leaders are people who invest in themselves each day. They are people who have a process, have a plan of attack, and then they go execute on that plan. And that's why I feel like I have gravitated towards leadership above all else, because all my life I played sports. As you can see, as my wife reminds me frequently, not super tall at all. So I think I verge on 6 foot. She says probably not. So, it's an aspiration. One day I may get there. But all my life, it's not been that way. It's been, shortest guy on the team. I'm even shorter than my brother, which is embarrassing, but true. Playing sports all your life, like being tall, being the bigger kid, whatever it may be, was always an advantage. Well, I looked at it as, well, I'm not that, so I'm going to have to work hard if I want to play. And I think that's in leadership where I've gravitated, is that because there is no advantage, no one has an advantage over another person. Even if you look at an advantage of, well, they're in a manager role or whatever, it doesn't matter. It is literally about your will to become a great leader. That's all it is. It's all it boils down to. Do you want to put in the work to become a great leader? You either do or you don't. And someone can either, they may outwork you. Are you okay with that? Or do you want to work harder than them? And so I think that's where I found a connection, is that really all my life I've just been relying on, if I want to do this, it's going to take hard work. Like, even school for me was not a very thing that came easy to me. But I just worked hard at it. Like, if I was going to, get a good grade on that test, like I was going to have to put in some work to study for that sucker, because it did not come natural. I couldn't, still to this day, like there are times when things are explained to me and I got to take like a step back and kind of survey the scene and understand, but I understand where I am and what I need to do. So to me, leadership is a choice. And that's a great thing about it, is you can choose to do it or not. And to me, that's exciting. It allows you to be patient, because so long as you're putting in the work each day, you're going to get better. And much like the stock market, and what I found is that the more you work on it, it starts to compound like quickly. And so the work that you put in, while you need to be patient, if you're methodical about it, results come, and you start to see things, and you build on that momentum, and you can carry that on. In the book, they point out a study that was done on, they say, 90 top leaders by kind of these leadership experts, Warren Bennis and Bert Nanis. And they did this study, and they looked at all these leaders, and the one thing that they drew out of this study was their comment: it is their desire to develop and improve their skills that distinguishes leaders from their followers. To me, there's no bet. I mean, you look at people who want to become a leader, want to become better. It takes practice. Practice is, coming to one of these. That's practice. It's understanding. That's gaining a little bit of knowledge. But the thing is solely coming to these is probably not going to make you a better leader, unfortunately. This, coupled with what you do on a daily basis, will begin to build that momentum towards becoming a better leader. And so it's important to understand that leaders are learners. How much are you learning on a daily basis that's going to make you better? The key to me is taking all of what you've learned and practicing it and then sharing it. That's where you see the compounding effect. That's where you begin to pick up speed when it comes to developing your leadership. You know, we talked a little bit about this week in a meeting we had on Tuesday about developing leaders within your team. Well, that's practice and sharing. Practicing leadership with your team is going to allow them to see leadership on display. It's going to allow for greater buy-in. When you start to share some of these lessons, you start to see conversations that are happening surrounding leadership, not management. You know, I had still have an ongoing goal of when we have meetings to shut up and not talk, and to ask the right questions and let people talk. Let people discover for themselves what they can do to become better. This past Tuesday was probably, I would say, our best meeting, where the conversations that were happening, I could sit back because it was just fun to listen to. It was fun to listen to people come from a perspective of learning. Hey, yeah, I totally agree with that. I actually tried it the other day. Well, I had this experience with my team when we did this. Let's practice. That's sharing what worked, what didn't. It's leadership. I feel like leadership is kind of it's kind of one of those words. It's like kind of pie in the sky type thing. Like, you know, how do I do that? Whatever. To me, it's very, very simple. You just break it down into learning, practice, share. Learning, practice, share. Seek out information, learn about it, practice it. That's the key. A lot of people read books, but they never implement anything. Got to implement it. And then share it. Hey, this really worked for me. This didn't work. There's a lot of that too. I got plenty of those stories. That went south real quick. And so John talks about the phases of this process, the phases of becoming a leader. And these phases are things that we ourselves, as we develop our leadership, need to be conscious of, but we also need to be conscious of it within our team. If our ultimate goal is to build leaders on our team, which is ultimately going to, I think we would all agree, result in a better team, then we have to be conscious of where people are in these phases. Where are they at? What don't they understand? How do we move them to the next one? How do I myself move to the next one? You know, he characterizes the first phase as, I don't know what I don't know. You know, you don't think you're a leader, so you don't act like one. Anybody have anybody on their team that doesn't act like a leader because they may not know that they are? We got to let them know. You are. We're all leaders. Because leadership is influence. And everyone on the team has influence on others on the team. Some more than others. But some could gain more influence if they understood that they're leading every day by their actions. Because they're practicing, but they may be practicing the wrong thing. And if you're practicing the wrong thing, you may be sharing the wrong thing. So you've really got to dig in and understand, you know, are there things that you don't know? Probably. Things I don't know. But through daily growth, you begin to discover those and really check those off and then share them with your team. You know, the next phase that he talks about is I know I need to know. So we get this when we get people on our team that may think that, well, when I get to that manager spot, when I get to that position of supposed leadership, well then I'm gonna really dig into those books. I'm gonna really get after it. Well, unfortunately, it may be a little bit late. You may be a little bit late to the party. If we understand that we are always leading, regardless of where we are in our life, when we get to that position, we'll be ready. Because what I found is that position will find you. Some of the most successful people in this company never sought out, the role found them because of what they did on a daily basis, of what they worked on. The role found them. Because as we continue to grow and you see someone growing, you can't curb their desire. You can, but then they're probably going to find somewhere else to work. But that comes back to a lot of patience. We've got to be patient to get there. But knowing that the work that I am putting in today, the person that I am acting like today, is going to get me where I want to be. The thing that I see oftentimes is someone practicing the skill rather than practicing leadership. And we talked about a couple of weeks ago, leadership is the ultimate catalyst to increasing our effectiveness. And the more effective you are, the more leadership you can take on. But we've got to practice the leadership. Oftentimes, we've said this multiple times. You get the guy or gal. Well, I've been doing this for 10, 15 years. Well, that's great, but more than likely, if that is your sole focus, you're going to be in the same spot 10 or 15 years down the road. But once you come to understand that leadership is your way forward, then you can start to compound your results. Because around here, we're not looking for managers, we're looking for leaders. People who can get the most out of their people. People who can help their people grow. Then the next phase is, I know what I don't know. So we come to understand that we need a plan. We need to invest in ourselves. We need to grow as a leader. When we understand what this plan is, then you got to work the plan. Then you got to understand how you're going to get there. And the plan doesn't have to be super elaborate. What I found in my plan, I just picked something up and just kind of started. Really, no plan. The plan developed itself. A year and a half ago, I never in a million years thought I'd be standing up here doing this. A year and a half ago, I never thought we'd have a podcast that throws all this information out to a bunch of people. A year and a half ago, I never thought we'd have leadership meetings where we discuss a book inside the company. But guess what? All of those things found me, found my plan, created the plan. And the plan is always evolving. I've got a few other ideas too. But those will come with time. I've got more to learn. I've got to become a better teacher. But that's the exciting part, is there's really no timeline. So long as I work every day at it, we'll get there. May not be next month, may not be the month after. But it's so long as we're working over that, time period, we're getting better. And then the last step is I know and grow, and it starts to show. Patience, I cannot overstate patience. the more patient we are, the more we understand that this is nothing but a journey. Leadership, nothing but a journey. We're on it, learned something today, perfect, got a little better. Learn something tomorrow, there's no deadline. No one's saying you got to be a great leader by next month. That'd be an impossible task for someone to assign you. So if someone does assign you that, please let me know. It's not a good assignment. It's not going to happen. The other thing about that is we talk about leadership compounding, affecting more people. Ultimately, as a leader, you want to have influence. Well, influence, if you're just influencing one person, you don't have a ton of influence. But what I can tell you is once you understand and you begin to grow on a daily basis, it starts to compound. And the reason it compounds is because as you practice and as you share, the people that you are influencing begin to share as well. Then you become all of those people. You know, I often talk about process in the same way. When we create a process, you're trying to create an extension of you. This is how we should do this. Let me write that down, and then 4 or 5 people can do it the correct way so that we're all doing it the same way. Leadership is much the same. The more you share, the more people see you exhibiting those qualities, they'll pick it up. But again, stay patient. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be next month. It may not be next year. But it's the daily, just repetition of what's going on. I can tell you as a group, I can feel it. I can feel that people are starting to do this. People are asking me for things. Hey, how do you do this? Do you have a book that you recommend? But that's the compounding effect of this. We've got people taking an interest in developing this skill. And as I said, the great part about it is there's no timeline, so long as you work at it every day. So you have the choice to eliminate the timeline. If we just work on it twice a month, then there's no timeline, but I'm pretty certain you may not get there in your lifetime. So I would encourage the everyday approach. The great thing about leadership too, that I'm excited about, I'm a part of a small group that I met with yesterday, and it was my turn to give a presentation on our company. And I always joke that, you know, in our industry, based on what companies have done in the past, you know, when we're trying to make the best place to work, we don't have a terribly huge hill to climb. And that's also the great thing about leadership. There's far more people not exhibiting leadership in the world than there are exhibiting it. So again, the compounding effect comes in that if you practice every day, it's not like you got to put in 9-10 hours, 30 minutes of, you know, reading something or, you know, centering yourself to, you know what, today I'm going to come from a leadership mindset. When I have situations, I'm going to come from not my natural tendency, but I'm going to come as a leader would come in this situation today. That's all it takes. That takes 15 minutes. Doing that each day, you'll start to compound because you'll pass others that aren't focused on that so fast it's not even funny. And the cool thing about it is, as I talked to this small group yesterday, who are from all different industries, I mean, none in the heating and plumbing industry, and I explained what we do, how we do it, that we'd have a bunch of people sitting here this morning. When I explained that, they saw it too. Oh, you guys are moving pretty fast. Well, how have you grown so fast? Leadership. How will you continue to grow fast? Leadership. It's not a terribly complicated equation for all of this. We didn't do anything razzle-dazzle in the marketing. We didn't do anything weird or, super spectacular. We run the same process as umpteen dozen companies across the country. Book the call, run the system, install the furnace, install the water heater. It's all the same across the country. What we have, and what I've said before, it's not what we do, it's how we do it. And because of how we do it, because of the people that we attract, we can do it better. And the same goes for leadership. Leadership is what will increase your effectiveness faster than anything that you can practice. We can practice our brazing and our soldering and our, metal transitions and our troubleshooting on a furnace all we want. But if we truly want to grow, we'll practice our leadership every day. And that doesn't matter if it's a new guy who has no experience whatsoever. If we can teach him how to be a leader, he'll be a hell of a technician. He'll be a hell of an installer. Make leadership the focus and allow your team to understand that daily work on that will result in growth that you can't fathom.